Hi, everybody. I'm Yaw. As Prashant said, I'm founder and CEO of ODK. Can I see by a show of hands how many of you have heard of ODK? Oh my goodness. Well, why am I even here? I don't. How many of you have used ODK? Okay, that's pretty good. And how many of you saw my previous talk at the Knowledge series? Okay, so some of you might hear some same old jokes, but just laugh heartily, and it should be okay. So I helped to start the ODK project almost 14 years ago, and I've worked on it pretty much every day since, and that is not healthy, but I can't help it because it really is a tremendous joy and privilege to lead a project that so many people in global health find useful. In today's presentation, I'm going to explain a little bit more about what ODK is, share examples, particular examples of how WHO uses it. I'll turn over things to Frank. Frank is sort of the OG of GIS and polio. He's seen a lot of things, so he can share a case study and a demo of some of the work in Somalia and how ODK and Power BI are being used. I'll then show a feature that we just launched last week or 2 weeks ago called Select from Map, and end with a Q&A session for folks who have questions along the way. That sound like a good agenda? Let's get started. So what is ODK? ODK lets you build very powerful offline forms to collect the data you need wherever it is. It's a mobile data collection app. It's a field data collection app. The most common use case is that a data collector in the field, an enumerator, fills out a form offline in the ODK Collect mobile app. As they're walking around, if a network connection, either Wi-Fi or cell, is found, that data is sent to an ODK central server where the data can be seen and acted on. Now, there are a lot of data collection apps in the world, so what makes ODK different? The best way to put it is this. ODK we consider as the Land Cruiser of data collection apps. And we all know what a Land Cruiser is. It's reliable, even in the most challenging settings. It's tough. Whatever you do to a Land Cruiser just seems to keep going. It's pretty easy to use with no training. I'm pretty sure I've seen some children driving Land Cruisers. Very intuitive. It's customizable depending on your needs. And then the last thing is it's very proven, particularly in the humanitarian sector. It's not the sexiest of vehicles, but it's a proven tool in these areas. And we consider ODK the Land Cruiser of data collection apps. And like the Land Cruiser, ODK has become the global standard for data collection in global health and development. It's an active use in literally every country in the world. And I can think of 6 reasons why. The first is that the forms you can build in ODK are extremely powerful. So the forms can include photos, GPS locations, skip logic, calculations, external data sets. It all works in multiple languages. You can have repeating sections. You can scan barcodes. And if you've used ODK in the past, these features keep getting added on more and more. The data collection works entirely offline. And so that means that you can either use the mobile app or a new web app, and forms and submissions are synchronized when a connection is found in the background automatically. And then once the data is collected, it's very easy to analyze. You can download it as a CSV, or you can connect tools like Power BI, Excel, or R directly to the data set. And Frank will show some of that. ODK is proven at global scale. It's used in every country with individual projects collecting millions of projects. It's trusted across sectors, and this is unique because ODK is, it's used a lot in health, but it's not necessarily a health tool. It's also used in election monitoring, used in climate monitoring. The Jane Goodall Institute uses it. Red Cross uses it. So it's really a cross-cutting tool for data collection, and it's trusted in these sectors. And then it's open source, and this is really important because you can use it as is. You can customize it as you see fit. And it's self-hostable by countries and by organizations, and it really is as a public good. It's been a public good for 14 years, and we expect it to be a public good far into the future. We really care about people being able to own their own data and their own infrastructure. So there's no lock-in, basically. Now, we've been talking a little bit about how great ODK is, and these are very nice slides, but you might be asking, well, can you just show me? And so that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to, let's see how much time I have. Okay, great, we have a little bit of time. So because not everybody saw the quick talk, I'm just gonna build a form right here now, deploy it to a phone, and send some data into the server. All the demos I do are live demos because the software has to work. So let's jump into it. Okay. I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger here. And at this time, I'm just going to talk a little bit about our central server. Sure, the screen is a little bigger. Okay, great. And just give people a sense of a few definitions, so we're all in the same mind space. And this will be very helpful when Frank also does his portion here. So we're going to just do a quick end-to-end demo. What you're seeing here is my demo project. We have a notion of project spaces on an ODK server, and this is an ODK server that you're looking at running on ODK Cloud. And my project has some forms that I've built over time that I'll be sharing with you folks. We have in the top tab project roles that lets you control who has access to which project. So these are our project roles. And then we have app users. App users are folks, the data collectors who are out in the field. Because our data collectors typically don't have email addresses and don't want to be managing usernames and passwords, we use QR codes. These QR codes that you see here that they scan. Now, these QR codes can be associated with one person, in this case, myself or Nick, or teams of people. And these are QR codes you can print and put it in a training room. The data collectors scan the QR code and they're connected to the server. And then we have form access, so you can control which person, Nick, myself, who has access to what forms. So that's project spaces, project roles, app users, and form access. Now, we also have a mobile device. And now the demo gets really interesting because we have to show you a mobile device. How are we going to do that? I'm going to do this here. I think I have a phone somewhere. There it is. This is the phone that I'm holding in my hand. It's just projected to the screen because it's more convenient that way. So I'm going to just scan my QR code. Oh, this is like all sorts of meta here. We'll just scan the QR code. When it beeps, you notice that Yaw's demo project. So now the phone has now been linked to the server. We're ready to fill out some forms. We can fill out a blank form. We have some forms already that the phone has synced in the background. Since this is the GIS Centre, we should probably just do the GIS Centre demo. So we'll do that. Oh, here's a cool feature. It's saying this form tracks your location. This is a new feature that we added some time ago. It's an audit log. So most of you trust your data collectors with your lives, but sometimes they may not be going to the actual sites and doing the data collection. So we have audit features that let you track the start time and end time of every question, changes that have been made, and in the background, a GPS coordinate so you know what your data collectors are doing. I'm going to just type in my name. What's my age? I am 40. Red's a pretty good color. I don't know if GPS coordinates will work indoors. So probably not. So because it's a live demo, let's fake a GPS coordinate, shall we? Now it should think that I am in Sydney. It's a little demo trick there. 40, red. There we go. And so that's it. We have sent the data now to the server. When we go to our GIS Centre demo data under submissions, we will see the data has been submitted, Yaw 40, favorite color red. Once you're on the server, you can either accept or reject the submission, giving you some workflow support. You can also edit the data. So in case I didn't think my name was Yaw, I think my name is now Inga. Inga, I don't know how old you are. I'm just going to put a healthy 21. When we submit the data, we refresh it and see the name has been changed. And we keep a log of every submission that has been made and all changes that you made to your data. This ends up being like a Facebook feed for each submission. You can just have conversations about it. You can actually put emojis in here. And so you can track the history of a submission over time and make sure that all the data that's being collected is and changed is available. When you're ready to download the data, you can filter and sort it and download it as a CSV, as everybody likes. You can also analyze it via OData, and let Frank talk about that. And then we also have an API, a RESTful API that people can use to talk directly to the server. One last thing I'm going to show you before I return to talk a little bit about how data is used, ODK is used at WHO, is that we also have web forms in ODK, in the sense that most people are out in the field, they have Android phones, but sometimes you might want to do something like a massive campaign where you want to survey everybody in the country, and not everybody has an Android phone, and so you want to just send out a link. We have that option as well. And in fact, I'm going to go to my slide here. If you have a phone, you can either type in this URL or scan it, and it should open up a web browser where you can fill out a form. Do you guys want to try that? I just added this like 10 minutes ago, so fingers crossed. Did it open up a link? Are things happening? All right. You don't have to put in your real information because of GDPR or something. So, but if you do that, I'm going to hit refresh here, and we should start seeing, Ishmael, very fast. You should start seeing your data come in as well. We've got Thomas, Jeff, Elmo. Elmo. I didn't know Elmo was here. So that's our web forms. These web forms can be actually quite powerful. In fact, I'm going to show you an example that we use in polio. This is another example of a web form. You can see it looks just like a paper form, but it has all the logic and branching and support that you expect. And so ODK forms can be both on the web, where it's more participant oriented, or on the mobile device, where it is for enumerators. So that just gives you a little taste of what ODK can do. And Frank will get more into this. One question that we get asked a lot is, well, what's the difference between ODK and some of these other tools? And so that's a great question. ODK's infrastructure powers a lot of data collection tools. So if you've heard of Kobo or ONA, Survey CTO, Survey 123, and many others, these are tools that build on or rely on technologies that ODK has either created or currently maintains. And so one question we get asked a lot is like, so what's the difference between some of these tools? It depends on the tools, but there are sort of four major differentiators that we think of. The first is features, is that ODK, we are trying to be the vanguard and then sort of the tip of the spear, as it will, as far as data collection features. And so you get unique and new functionality in ODK months before it appears elsewhere. In fact, one of the features I'm going to show you in a little bit is this select from facility, select from map feature that I'm going to show you in a little bit. The second is performance. So with ODK, we really want to be the most performant platform so you can deploy very large and complex forms. And so I don't recommend you build a 10,000 question survey with 50,000 drop-down lists, but if you choose to do that, it'll load in ODK and it'll work just fine. The 50,000 item list is really important. For example, in Nigeria, if you wanted to get a list of all the wards in Nigeria on a phone, that's tens of thousands. And so that kind of performance is what you need when you work at scale. Stability, ODK's been around for 14 years, proven in working environments. One customer emailed me and said they learned about ODK because their data collectors refused to use something else. So that's really gratifying to hear. And then the last and probably the most important here is community. ODK has a community forum with 15,000 ODKers on there. Some of you are on the forum, and that's really our biggest advantage, because this is a community of practice of people all over the world helping each other collect data. They share lessons learned, help each other, suggest features, and they also translate the app. The app is now available in, I think, 60 languages, and I don't speak 60 languages. So it's really from the community who find value in the software who are translating it. I wanted to move more into some of the examples that we have of ODK usage, particularly at WHO, because that's where we are. And there are a couple here. So, and this is one of my favorites. Recently, before the COVAX-19 vaccinations were being sent out, WHO and UNICEF sent out the survey about to the technical partners about what tools they needed in order to maximize the benefits of the COVAX-19 vaccine. And this was some of the options that they put there: cloud storage, mobile devices, internet connection, Office, GIS software, and ODK. And I think it's really telling. It was surprising to me, but it's really telling because it's a great example of the critical role ODK plays as sort of infrastructure, core infrastructure for a lot of projects. Some other examples include a lot of the COVID-19 surveillance and response work in Afro and EMRO is done through ODK. There's the clinical trial data that helped to show the safety of the recent malaria vaccine. A lot of that clinical trial data was collected through ODK, and Aurelio, who's back there, made a lot of that happen. There's a project in Uganda where the vaccination of 19.5 million kids, a lot of that data came through ODK. And then the verbal autopsy form, which measures the global standard, global burden of disease, is also an ODK form. And again, I think Aurelio has played a key role in that. Probably the biggest use is in polio. And you heard from Godwin and the Afro team about this. They put together a website of the 5 tech solutions that helped eradicate wild polio in Africa. And it's a really great article. GIS mapping, we all like a little bit of GIS. Avdar, which folks know from the novelty crew. eServe, ELQAS, and digital elevation modeling. And I thought this was really interesting because 3 of the 5 of these use ODK in some way. And it's really a testament to the extensibility of the software. And so I want to pause here and hand things over to Frank, who can tell you more about how ODK is actually used by WHO in Somalia in particular, and he will do a little bit of the Power BI work as well. Frank?
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And let me start by congratulating the GIS Centre. Congratulations to Ravi and the whole team, and really looking forward to see all the new GIS projects coming from the center. Yes, I'm going to talk about a case study of ODK while I'm going to share my screen. And this is the case study of how ODK is being used in Somalia. I will give a little history about how we have implemented ODK in Somalia. I would like to give a demo. I would like to make it a bit more practical, a bit more hands-on during this part to show what the ODK server for Somalia looks like, and give 1 or 2 examples of how we eventually make maps of using the ODK data. If we go back in time about 7 years, because that's when we initially started using ODK in Somalia, just to give an idea of what the situation was at that time, there was no way of doing electronic data collection. There was no tool in place. There was not much technical capacity to work with that kind of digital tools. Actually, there was not even a real reporting system in place. I remember when I got first to Somalia, and we wanted to know basic information, like how many health facilities do we have, or even to find out how many staff WHO has on the ground. We had to put in a request, make an Excel file with a template, send out to the states, and then wait 1 or 2 weeks to get the information back to us. So nowadays, if we have a request for data, we just create this ODK tool, we publish it, and sometimes even within minutes, we are receiving data. And that also shows how great the people on the ground are in providing us with information. So the first few years when we just started using ODK, we didn't use ODK yet for reporting. We really needed to get familiar with the tool. We needed to build the technical capacity to handle the data, to manage the server, to build the forms. But most of all, the people on the ground, they needed to get familiar with the ODK tool itself. And that took some time, to set all of that in place. And I think the first 2 or 3 years, the ODK work in Somalia was very basic, really like go to a settlement, give us the coordinates and the name of that settlement, or visit the health facility, take a picture of the health facility, or do the same thing with a water point, get us the name and some basic information about the water point. So this work at that time was actually led by Brian Ogoda, who happens to be in this room here today, but he's hiding somewhere there in the back. He was leading that work like the first 2 years, 3 years to just get started with ODK. Only after that we started to make the ODK forms more comprehensive and do more of a reporting kind of forms in ODK. And if you then look at what kind of reports we are receiving through ODK, just alone for vaccination campaigns, it's like 7 or 8 forms at the moment where we are getting, like the data stream is completely through ODK right now. That's due for the data that we are collecting during polio vaccination campaigns, but nowadays the reporting on COVID-19, on measles, on malnutrition, on the drought, health facility surveys, almost everything is going through ODK. And needless to say, I mean, the credit for all this work goes to the people like on the ground, ones that are collecting this information. They turn out to be real champions in data collection, as I will show you on the ODK server in a minute. I'm going to switch over to the ODK server. There we go. So this is what the ODK server looks like that we are using for Somalia. It's very similar to what Yaw was just showing to you as well. This is the ODK server that we have set up for the whole EMRO region. So it doesn't only have data for Somalia, but also some other countries in the EMRO region too. And if you happen to be working in one of these countries and you want to do an ODK project, let us know. I mean, we can easily create another project and create a user account for you as well. So these are the list of all the projects. The projects are a great way to like separate like the data flow and create like different projects for different types of activities. The one that I would like to show you is the Somalia project that has all the data of all the activities that we are doing together with the MOH in Somalia. And I wanted to highlight one of the forms. Let me see where it is. Yes, this one in particular. So it shows the forms and it shows the number of submissions and the last time a form was submitted. And I want you to see the numbers of forms that have been submitted for just this particular form. So this is the COVID-19, the second one is the COVID-19 awareness and case search reporting tool that we used for 2021. And during that year, over 100,000 times this form was filled in and the data was submitted to our server. That's a huge amount of data. And that was only for the form that we had for 2021. In 2020, we had a similar form and also that form was filled in over 150 times. And for this year, we have this CHW, which is the Community Health Worker reporting form. which already for this year has 35,000 submissions. So just try to imagine like how much data is coming in like on a daily basis. I think just this form is filled in and submitted like 500 times every day, which is a huge amount of data and to analyze as well. And it's wonderful data for me because I can use it to do my mapping, because I'm the GIS expert, and I'm just using the ODK tools to get like all the information that we need to build the GIS database and to do like the spatial analysis. So what might be interesting to talk about is the metadata that's included when they are submitting this data. So in Somalia, we cannot actually visit Somalia. Yaw and we have been to Hargeisa once. I've been to Mogadishu several times. But that's as far as we can go. We can just go to the office, and the rest of the country is just not accessible for us. So we cannot really see the data collection happening in the country. We cannot see it for ourselves. But the metadata that is included in these ODK forms can actually tell us quite a bit about how they are collecting the data in the field. So who is collecting it, when are they collecting it, where are they collecting it, and so on. And again, I haven't seen it myself, so I cannot tell for sure how it's being done, but I'm just imagining myself that there are at least a lot of people like going around from household to household to do like the COVID-19 awareness, to get like the information per household about the vaccination status, about any malnutrition, and so on. We can see who's collecting this data through the information, like the phone device ID, maybe a name that they fill in. And this data is being collected by like thousands of people, like 2,000, maybe 3,000 different people that are collecting this information. And that's much more, a much higher number than the number of WHO staff that we have in the country who actually should be doing this work. But apparently they are using other people like to collect that information. And just because I was curious, I've been asking around like, okay, who is this person, you know, that collected this information? And then you will hear that it's maybe a son of like the community health worker, or a nephew who has a phone as well. And then if you compare that information with the time that they are collecting it, which is mostly like at the end of the day, so maybe I'm just imagining this myself, but this could be like after they came back from school, that they take the smartphone, take the ODK app, and go from door to door to help out with this creating awareness around COVID-19. Because otherwise, like there are like thousands of people like going around the country, and we think that there might be a lot of youngsters that are not even WHO staff, that are not even health workers, but really just helping out with all these activities. So these are the forms. If you then go to the project rules or the app users, this is the same as what Yaw was showing us before. These are all the different users that we have created for Somalia, and for each of them we can open up a QR code. And what we normally do, we take this QR code and share it with the people in the field through like WhatsApp groups. And well, often once we share a QR code with them, or we tell them that there's a new form included, they are immediately collecting the data and immediately submitting data, just like we just saw in the demo. Data is coming in straight away, which is fantastic, fantastic to see. So then I'm going to open up a form that doesn't have too much data, because then we can use that these submissions to create a map. Give me a second to find that form. I wanted to pick out a form that doesn't have too many submissions, because then it doesn't take too long to load. So this is a campaign monitoring that was done in September 2021 to do during a fractional IPV activity. And the number of submission isn't that much, 262, so we can try to put that on the map. So now in this demonstration, I want to make two different maps, one using ArcGIS software and one using the Power BI software. For the map that we are making with ArcGIS, I'm actually going to download these submissions. So you can see that there's a download button over here. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to download all the raw data as CSV files. And this zip file has both of the CSV files. I'm just going to unzip this particular CSV file, and that's it. So I've downloaded the latest submissions. Now I'm going to use that data to make a map. Now we can make the map in any kind of GIS software, but earlier today we were talking about the online platform of ArcGIS Online, and I'm sure that will be discussed more like in the next workshop session as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to the ArcGIS Online server from WHO. I'm already automatically logged in using my own WHO account, but you can even make this map that I'm going to make without actually logging in. I'm going to go to map over here, and then I will see a nice WHO base map. This is the new map viewer from ArcGIS Online with some fancy features, but I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to use the older map viewer, which is called the Map Viewer Classic. So I'm going to open that one. And I have a plain base map of the whole world. And on here, I'm going to load the ODK data, which can be just done in a few clicks. I'm going to go to add data over here. Then I'm going to add layer from file. I'm going to select that CSV file that I just downloaded from the ODK server. I will say import a layer. And then ArcGIS is asking me which of these columns in the data set have the latitude and longitude information. So this column has the latitude data. So I'm going to select latitude, and for this column, I'm going to select longitude. I will click on add layer, and the map is created. So that's how simple it is to move over the data from the ODK server to your ArcGIS Online platform. Now, there is okay, so let's first continue designing this map a little bit, because now all these dots are gray. I will be able to color them based on the number of children that were missed during this campaign. I think that's that column. Now it shows a bubble map. So the bigger the bubble, the more children that were missed in that particular household during this particular vaccination campaign. I can switch that one to a heat map. I can change the base map to show satellite imagery, and so on. So this is how we can start designing and doing the spatial analysis. I can save this map, I can share it with colleagues, I can publish it online, I can include it in a dashboard and so on. But I think in the next session this afternoon, there will be more talk about this. The ArcGIS Online server that we are looking at is the one from WHO. And this server already includes a lot of very useful data sets that have been imported by Ravi and the team in the last years. And all these different data sets, they are available to add to your own map as well. And I just quickly want to show that one as well. So if you go to add here, and we will add another data set. We can, browse through all the content on the WHO server, I will look for Somalia data over here, and I can include different layers on top of my map that might be interesting to do, like the spatial analysis by overlaying like different kind of data sets. Okay, so that's how we make a map using ArcGIS. It's the data was first downloaded from the ODK server, so it's not connected anymore. When we are going to include the data in Power BI, we can have like a live connection of the data through the OData link. And for that, I'm going to get the OData link from this same page where we were earlier on the ODK server. You can get the OData link by clicking on Analyze via OData. And this link we can include in Excel, we can include in Power BI. And when you do that, you will always keep like a live link of the data that's on the server. So in Excel or in Power BI, to refresh the data, you only need to click on the refresh button. If you have a published Power BI dashboard, you will keep having this live link with the data that's on the server, and you can schedule like a refresh like once an hour or once a day to always have like the latest information in your Power BI dashboard. So this link we will now take to the Power BI, but I'm just going to check how much time we have. How are we doing? We have half an hour. Shall I continue? Okay, good. So I moved over to my Power BI desktop. I will add data to this dashboard using the OData feed. Then Power BI is asking me, where is this OData feed coming from? Well, you paste this link that we just got from the ODK server, click on OK. If you do this for the first time, you have to type in your login details and your password. You select the data set that you want to have. And before we are going to add it to our Power BI dashboard, to design our dashboard, we are going to manipulate this data in a tool that's called Power Query. And I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Power Query, but it's quite a powerful query tool that is fantastic to use to manipulate your table with ODK data. What you can do, for example, because I have a table over here with all the ODK data, we can just simply select all the columns that we don't need and remove these columns because we are not going to use them in our analysis. You can change the titles of the columns. You can make filters. You can so one thing we always need to do, which is quite interesting in the case of like Somalia, when the data collectors on the field are submitting their data, they somehow are never sure whether that data is actually receiving the server. So what they do, they submit the same data again, and sometimes again, and another time. So what we see a lot with the data collectors in Somalia is that they fill in the ODK form, submit the data, fill in the ODK form again with the same data, submit it again. So we have a lot of like duplicates in our data sets. And of course, we need to remove these duplicates before we start doing our analysis, because otherwise our vaccination coverage during a campaign will be 500% because everyone has submitted the same data 5 times. So again, Power Query is a great tool to do that kind of filtering, remove all the duplicate data, and which is actually a critical step for us to do, because otherwise our analysis are not going well. I'm going to look for the column that has the coordinates. I'm going to add that here to the table as well. When the coordinates are coming from the ODK server, they are in a certain format that actually Power BI and also ArcGIS don't really understand. So we need to do something to convert this coordinate format to a format that is readable by Power BI. For ArcGIS, we created a little plugin. So we resolved it by making a plugin, and through this plugin, this coordinate format will be converted to just a column with the latitude and the longitude information. In Power BI, we normally do that manually. So I'm going to manipulate this particular column right now. I'm just going to pick out the latitude and longitude information alone. Okay, I'm going to transform. I'm going to say extract. I'm going to extract the text that is between these brackets. And then I'm going to split this column based on the space delimiter. And then we should have one column that has the longitude information, longitude, and we will have one column that has the latitude information. And that's it. There's plenty more that we can do over here, but that should be enough for now, and we should be good to go to close Power Query, go back to Power BI, and start creating our dashboard. This probably needs a minute to load because it's going to download the data from the ODK server right now. So in the meantime, we can have a look at some of the dashboards that we already created and have a look at the different kind of maps that are included in these dashboards. So this is a dashboard about a certain health facility survey that has been done. And the map that you see over here that is created with like the default mapped visual that is in Power BI. So this is very straightforward, just point data coming from the ODK server. If we will have a look at this other dashboard that we created for the COVID-19 community surveillance, we are not showing the point data because there will be way too many points on the map. So we have aggregated the information, the data by district, and then color the districts based on the number of households visits that have been conducted in different areas. And this type of map can be created in Power BI using a visual that is called filled maps. There is also an Esri plugin in Power BI where you will have a point map like this as well. Also, again, with live ODK data. And this Esri plugin has a couple of nice features to change, for example, the base map. You can make filters and selections on the map. You can get a pop-up when you click on a certain dot and so on. This is another dashboard with another type of map plugin that the MRO office has created together with BMGF. And this particular plugin allows you to overlay like different layers in your Power BI dashboard. And last one that I wanted to show is the map plugin that was created by this office over here, WHO HQ, which allows for the WHO base map to be included. It allows for choropleth maps, point maps, different kinds of like visuals. Again, it has like the selection possibilities and the filtering and so on. So different types of plugins are available. And I see that my Power BI is still trying to download the data. So we're probably not going to wait for that. And this workshop was also not really meant as a Power BI training. So I'll probably leave it for this. And I just wanted to clarify that what I've showed you just now is really how it's being done in Somalia, right? How we make a map, how we make a dashboard in Somalia. There are lots of different ways to do this. You know, there's a lot more possible with the ODK server, with Power BI server, with ArcGIS Online. I know that, but I just wanted to quickly demonstrate how we are doing it in Somalia and how it's working for us. So with this, I would like to hand it over back to Yaw.
Thanks, Frank. So it looks like we have
We have some questions online, if we want to take a few minutes to answer those, or would you like to continue with the?
I think I'm going to continue. I see the questions. They're very
Okay,
good questions,
good.
and I will have answers for them, I promise. What I like to show is just our new select from map feature, which I think will be pretty, hopefully interesting to the GIS crowd here. Show that feature, and then we can open it up for Q&A. And I think that'll be really really quick. I'm going to share my screen again. So I'm just going to build, I built a very simple form here. For those of you who don't know XLS form, I'm just going to explain it really quickly. We're getting to some slightly more technical stuff, so don't worry if you don't get it the first time. This is an XLS form. It's how a lot of ODK users, myself included, Frank probably, build forms. Instead of a graphical form designer, it's a form designer that is in Excel. You can see that each row is a question that the user sees, and each column is a property of that question, of that question. So we have 3 or 4 questions: a text question asking for a name, a select one or a radio button selecting points of interest, a select one asking if you like something or not, using your name as a variable, and then if you selected a point of interest of jet 1, asking feedback about the jet. This is a Geneva specific form about Geneva places. The places that are referenced here are in this choices sheet here. So you can see that CERN, Palladium Nations, the jet are all here, yes or no, that's being referenced here. If you've done XLS form, this makes sense to you. If it doesn't, hopefully it doesn't make a ton of sense, but it shouldn't be like super scary currently. Let me just upload that form into the server really quickly. I'm going to publish it. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be going really quickly here, that my phone has it. All right. Now where's my phone? It's somewhere in here. Where did my phone go? Is that my phone? Nope, that's Zoom. Oh, that's my phone. We'll hit refresh because the phone checks in the background every 15 minutes and we don't have 15 minutes. So the Geneva reviews form is asking for first name Yaw, point of interest, sure. The jet, did I like it? Yaw, yes. Any feedback? It was a jet. I don't know. Save form sent. So that's sort of a very standard ODK form, right? It's a select one from a list. But those places that I listed, they were places, right? They exist in space-time. We talked about space-time. And so it'd be nice to, instead of selecting them from a list, like it was the 90s, it would be nice to see them on a map. And so we can do that now in ODK. So this point of interest question here, I'm going to add an appearance that I want to show up on a map. Okay. And in the choices sheet, I'm going to show you the trick that I just did. I've added a geometry column with the lat and longitude, accuracy and altitude as well, and a description of that. So I've added some more data about these options besides just their ID. I see some nodding, so we're heading the right place. So let's load that into the form. I'm going to increment the version number by 1. It's really important to track your versions so you know which version of data you're collecting on. So I'll upload the form. I'll publish it. These yellow warnings, I always skip over them because they're warning you of things that you're doing that are dumb. Basically, it's like you have changed the form and you have not tested it on a device, and now you are publishing it for your 50,000 data collectors. Are you really sure you want to do that? In this case, I'm very sure. I'm very confident of myself. I've not made any mistakes. If you do make a mistake, you can upload another version. But yeah, you should check first. You should test. So it's incremented by 1. We'll see the version number has changed. Same question, yeah. But instead of a select one drop-down list that we had, we now have a select place. And when I tap on this place, it will load a map of Geneva, and there's CERN with a description and the name that was pulled in from the CSV. So you're now mapping the points. If you had extra layers on the device, we will show you those layers offline or otherwise. And you can also still change your base maps. So if, for example, you're not very happy with Google at the moment, you can switch to your Mapbox tiles, and the same form will work in the same way now with Mapbox tiles. And so when I select a place like the jet has been selected, and then, oh, I didn't put a name. Let's see, I'm Bob now. And so it's still a select, but now it's a select that you've added sort of a dimension of location to. And so you can now add geometry to any element in ODK, and it'll present the right UI for mapping. You can get much fancier with this. So I'm going to show you another form. This time I've already prepared it. I call this the OSM updater. So here, the location information that I provided in this form, it was just in the Excel form, but what if you had a GeoJSON file? And so what I did was I've pulled a GeoJSON file, from OSM, from OpenStreetMap, and it's got a lot of attributes and stuff associated with it. So instead of a CSV, we're going to attach this GeoJSON file to the form and use it. And so I call this the GeoJSON OSM updater. So I'm going to add the GeoJSON file to the form. I'm going to upload it. Sure, I'm happy about it. I'm going to publish it. Again, I'm warned that I'm doing things that are not recommended. Let me make this a little bigger. We'll make sure that this OSM updater is available on the device, as we did. We'll go here. Oh, wrong one. Wrong one. Let's see, where is it? There it is. We'll refresh it. Now we're looking for the OSM updater form. There it is. This is in Dakar, I believe. Yep. And these are points from OSM. So this is like a bank. You can see this is a bank, and it has all the metadata that was in that OSM. So you can really pull in any metadata from any GIS source, attach it to the form, and then that data is available as part of the data entry. In fact, right now it says like amenity equals bank. You can do things like, well, I went there and it's not a bank anymore, it's an ATM. You can hit select. It's confirmed that it is the bank. It knows the ID that was the OSM ID because it's part of the metadata that's in the file. And so it knows that you're now talking about this particular ID. It's pre-filled in the amenity that it was a bank. We're going to call it an ATM now. It knows that the name was Bank Islamique de Senegal. We say it's not correct, we'll change it. It fills in the default here, we'll just call it ATM or something, ATM Senegal. So we've pulled data from OSM, we've attached it to the file, we've visualized that data from OSM and the attributes associated with it. We've now changed some of those attributes. We can send the form now to the server, and that data with those changes is now available on the server for you to do whatever you want with it. So we know the ID that it's associated with, we know what it was originally called, and we know that you're now changing it to ATM Senegal. So that's data now that's available in ODK that you can connect to downstream systems. So you can, again, plop it into Power BI or pull into R, or more importantly, you can send the data onto OSM as an update. And so this feature works for any GIS system. As long as you can export the data as a CSV or as a GeoJSON, you can pull all those attributes, work with them, and then send them back to the server. So that's our select from map feature, both with CSV and GeoJSON, and it's live now in ODK, and you should definitely give it a try. So I think that's all we had for today. Frank, do you have anything else? We can open it up for Q&A.